Oh, God, what's happening? Con, will you answer it? Oh, boy. Tell me something's happened with my appointment tomorrow. Printed. Come on, print.
Is AJ coming tonight?
I haven't heard that he isn't.
I'll text.
Unless there. That's already there. That's fire department. Okay.
There he is. That's
Ah,
the second time. Every time I get half the sentence, the text written, AJ, you show up every time.
Sorry. I guess that means I'm late a lot. Apologies.
Just not 100% late, just
a minute or two.
Yeah.
We
I'm
just
better at
need your
6:30
presence.
than 5:30.
Yeah,
Right,
right. I'm
right.
into that. Yeah, you're just that we need your presence.
Yes.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. I am happy to be here. I did just send out an email. I'm not sure if everyone received it, just to apologize for missing the last meeting. I do deeply apologize. I've had a lot going on for a long time, and we just had some back-to-back family tragedies happen.
Oh
all
no,
at
I'm
once. So
sorry.
and it's okay. Thank you. We're okay, but there's a lot. So I apologize if I'm out of sorts. I'm generally very reliable. So I do apologize.
We all have
No,
the world
don't
that
worry
crashes
about it.
in around us.
Thank you.
Not to worry.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hi, Bob.
Hello. Hello, Ellen.
Now Michael Broad is here, but
You blacked out.
there he is.
I'm
We just don't have a picture.
I don't know why. I haven't been able to figure that out, but I can hear everybody.
Well, I discovered that sometimes if you hit the wrong key on your computer, you shut off your camera.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm using a different computer than I normally
Oh,
do. And
guaranteed to be a problem then.
yeah, so you don't need to see me anyhow.
We always like to see you. Come on. Okay. Well, then, since everybody's here, I call the meeting to order. Review the minutes. Did you all receive the minutes and go over them? Very good. Well, then, do I
Yes.
have a motion pertaining to the minutes?
I move to accept.
Do I have a second? Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to accept the minutes. Oh, okay, now we have to go through and do a roll call. So, or just say your last name and say yes or no. Okay,
Broad
Bob,
eye.
why don't you start? Because
Okay,
you're
Groves, aye.
Jen.
Broad eye.
Okay,
Taylor, I.
Cashew eye.
McKay, aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, now, then we're right on time for the building committee. And I have just received their information. They are, of course, need to have the exterior trim the clapboards and painting of the elementary school, with the contact being the building committee and the principal of the school. And, okay. All rotten wood will be removed and replaced. Some longer lasting materials will be used. It's been what, 11 years? Oh, 2011. It's been 13 years since we last painted it. So God knows it's time to do it. Okay, did you all receive the form on the submission form? It just came in, so relatively recently. So if you haven't, why don't you swing back into your email and get it?
Or
Does
should
everybody have
I-
it?
Do you want me to put it up?
Sure, you could. That's why I was a little late, because I was jumping between my email and that to get them. Okay, why don't you, Becky? I'd appreciate it.
Okay, just a second. Sorry.
No problem.
I have to go back and find it. Let's see, capital plan. Okay. Sorry, I can't find my plan. I have too many.
Many things open.
Yeah.
I know that problem.
Here it is.
No matter how big a screen you have, it's never big enough.
Right. Okay. And I should. Okay. Now I can't see.
I had that happen today.
Two screens.
Yeah.
Screen share. Here. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Is it now just getting to the top?
Yes, now it's to the top.
All right, so pretty straightforward. It's removing and replacing rotted different clapboards and trim. They're going to use some different materials, mixing in some plastics and hardy board to preserve and make it more longer lasting in the future. The red paint, they say, was part of the problem. For some reason, red paint rots faster than other colors, which I never knew about.
Really?
That's interesting.
Yeah, considering I own a red house, so it was really eye-opening. So yeah, so it's long overdue.
Yeah, definitely.
The principal has said a number of times she feels like with the new roof, it's much improved, but until it gets painted and the woodwork redone, it will still need more work. And the other thing about the budget, we have some funds left from the roof project, part of the earmark that will go towards this project. We do have a quote from the engineer of $190,000 that will be going out to bid on this project after all the engineering is done, all the design. And we hope that will happen in March, so that we can take a pretty solid number, a bid number, to town meeting. Any questions?
Yeah. Becky?
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, the request is for $40,000,
No,
but the
No,
I
preliminary
don't see any
budget,
40,000.
no, 40,000 is for the future work. That's on a different sheet.
okay, so the request,
It's-
okay, just enlighten me, what's the request here? What's the number of dollars being requested?
Well,
It'll
we don't
be
know.
Yeah, it'll depend on the bid to be specific, we assume that it'll be around $190,000 total. We have over $100,000 in earmark that's left over from the roof, and then we'll have to come up with a balance.
How much is left over from the roof?
I don't have the exact amount in front of me. It's over 100,000. I think it's about 140.
Okay,
Wow.
so then that is pretty close to what they're asking roughly. But, you know, for me, I'd like to see a breakdown of what this $190,000 represents. I mean, that's a lot of money. I know that I absolutely, on the building committee, we talked about all this work for many years and we were waiting for the roof, which we were putting as priority first. And now the roof's done, great. It's time to, well over time to get this addressed, but where are these preliminary estimates and what are they, you know, what do they indicate?
I will get you a more detailed estimate. I'm trying to think how best to do that. So we do have, we have the design project. It's been, you know, that we're working on. They're in the second phase of the design. They've already, determined exactly which boards, and they've gone back through and whittled down the engineering from 60,000 to 35. And they are going through meticulously each element of the woodwork and determining which materials are best suited for which parts of the trim. So I can get you the more detailed breakdown. Right now it's more general. I think it's there's only two numbers that have been specified. That's why it's important to get to go out to bid and get a contractor's, you know, bid, which will be a lot more firm than this estimate.
Well, you know, I think we need to know what we're talking about. We need the scope of work and some kind of detail of what we're talking about for that kind of money. We need to know what it is. I mean, that's part of the process. So, you know, I'd like to just know. It's right now. It's just $190,000 rough estimate, and $100,000+ left over from the roof job, which is nice to know. But it's still $190,000 that we're talking about for this exterior trim and siding, exterior work and painting, or you know, we don't know,
Yes,
the
painting
details.
is included.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to see, and the 30,000 for engineering alone is part of the cost of this.
It's on top of the 190 estimate.
Okay, so that's another thing that's not clear from my reading here. So I would love to see just, you know, have the building committee or whoever's responsible for running this to produce a more detailed kind of presentation. Okay.
Yet at the same time, we are not the ones that handle determining the amount of money to go onto it. It is the finance committee, as you well know.
Well,
I
we have to
appreciate your
evaluate this. We need
concern.
to know the cost.
We
Obviously, we're not going to have a bid right now, Ellen, but we need to know
Right.
the scope of what we're talking about, the basic scale of what we're talking about.
AJ,
All right, so couple things. So my understanding here is that we've got a little bit of a different process than we've gone through with other projects. In that we're going to basically give jointly the building committee and the school committee, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but this is what it sounds like to me. We're essentially going to give them the direction to obtain a formal bid. That'll happen sometime in March. And
Well, they've
we'll
stated
adapt.
that that's stated that this
Okay.
requires a formal bid. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So sometime in March, we will have presumably a set of bids that will come in for this project. What we know right now is that it'll cover the costs of removing rotten wood replacing them with a variety of materials and paint and painting. And then we'll use the value of that bid as the amount that will be requested at town meeting. Finance committee will make a recommendation about how that amount should be funded. We know that a significant portion of it will come from this remaining earmarked funds, and finance committee will, based on what that bid is, will make a recommendation on where the additional amount of funding required ought to come from. Does that describe the process that? Okay.
It's sort
Alright,
of
that-
like the culvert and the painting of the building, not the painting, I'm sorry, the two roofs, the gym roof and then the asphalt roof went through the similar process. And I gave updates to the capital plan, but they weren't, I received a different response on the other two issues. But that's
Got it.
fine.
Okay.
We'll get
right,
as
and
many
so-
details as people want.
All right, so for now, what we can do is we can give the FinCom a heads up that our best information is that this project will cost $190,000. Again, substantial portion of that will be funded through remaining earmark, but that we'll have a firm number, in presumably by the end of March or sometime around.
Which will be
around
just
then.
about the time we have to get the town meeting stuff together.
Yeah.
You have to, FinCom has to,
Yeah.
not us.
Right, and at that point, we will have, proposed scope of works from somebody who's bid on the project that'll provide the level of detail that I think Bob and others are looking for in terms of what's going to be included in that scope of work. Okay, understood. One final question I have for you is, this is probably a totally naive question, but it's not obvious to me. It's not obvious to me, like, what kinds of projects require like an engineering sort of kind of pre-construction phase, and others, like, I may be thinking about this in a silly, I'm like, just as a homeowner, like I'm thinking like I wouldn't hire an engineer to tell me that, like my, that I have some trim that's rotting and needs to be replaced, and have, I would hire somebody to do that. Is there something about the scope of it being a large school building that requires like an engineering study to be done before the work can actually happen?
Yes.
Which
'cause
otherwise seems kind of straightforward to me, but yeah.
Yeah, because the detail, like when you put this out to bid, if you don't have the, if the bid isn't sufficiently detailed, specifically on which sections, what part of the building, to replace or not replace, then you don't really have control of what happens. And if you might get, potentially, building committee member might get frustrated that they thought it was obvious that the person should have replaced a certain section and it wasn't replaced.
I see.
So what the detail will provide is identification of every length and section that needs to be replaced and what doesn't, and what materials have to be used. It's more complicated
Okay.
than
Got it.
just saying go paint. Because
Right. All right, so
we're having to remove certain stuff and we want it replaced specifically with other materials. So the building committee has brought in the design company to help be very specific on each of those details.
Okay, that makes sense. So the deliverable of that work is a request for bids that has that level of detail that you just laid out.
That
Okay,
relates
now,
right to the designs. We have building to, details of every section, and they are you know, putting all their required changes onto the plans so that, you know, somebody can
Okay, got it.
easily do all
Figure it
this.
out.
That makes, all right, that totally makes sense. Then I just have one follow-up question about that. So that work is presumably underway, right? Because the bid is anticipated to come in March. So do they need funding for that, or is that already like,
We're
do they have,
using
or,
the funding that they got last year is the bulk of that is
Okay.
being used for this.
okay, so you don't anticipate that we will need, or that the building committee will need additional funds for the design work, where we anticipate that we'll just need funding that'll be on a town meeting warrant to actually do the work. Is that correct?
The funding is already in the budget in the renovations account, the 40,000
It's-
that was supported last year.
And that's sufficient for, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Bob, is that hand up because of another question or what?
Oh, you're muted. We didn't.
Yeah,
can't-
you're muted, Bob, and you've got your hand
Oh,
up.
sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
just to follow up on AJ's question, you know, 35,000, is that an estimate or is that a quote for engineering this project, or is that something already been kind
That
of,
was a proposal that has been approved and is in,
okay.
there.
I'll just say this, that, you know, that we were working on it when I was on chair of the building committee, and, you know, doesn't require an engineer. This is the way that they decided to go, but does not. That's a lot of money for this. It's just plain carpentry repairs. That's all it is. There's no structural work. It's carpet repairs. It's the sidewalls. It's the corner boards. It's the soffits, the fascias, et cetera, et cetera. It could all be photographed. It could be marked up with chalk, whatever. But in any case, if it's a done deal, it's a done deal. But in my opinion, it was an overkill to spend that kind of money on an engineer when it's really not necessary, because it's not required by law or any other provision to have a licensed engineer do this work. So anyway, again, we just need a detailed list of the funding that's been provided and what's
You don't need a
in
detailed
the
list of
future.
funding.
Not this
But
committee.
Not for
This
capital
committee
planning.
does not do funding.
We need to know the numbers of dollars it's going to cost.
No, we don't. Actually, we just approve or disapprove a project, and then it is up to the FinCom to determine the funding and the funding source.
Well,
If you're talking about cost, we have an
You
estimated.
have a,
cost already.
yeah, you have a number,
But we
190,000.
I will
So-
work to get you more detail.
yeah, I guess maybe it's me, but I was a little confused about the amount of money that was on hand, what had been provided in the past, what we might need to what this would cost the town at town meeting, you know, in rough numbers at least, so that I understand what we're talking about here. That's my concern. I totally support doing this work, so please understand that. It's just want to know what the costs are. That's a big part of it.
Okay, anybody else have a comment, question? Okay, that means we have to have another meeting pertaining to this because we have to have the detail. So
Okay.
let's get that on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, next thing was fire department. And
Wait, sorry, Ellen,
yes.
can I just ask one thing? So it seems like there won't be anything for us to discuss as a follow-up until we have bids in hand, right? I mean, is that, am I missing something, or? Because that's, at that point, we'll have a firm idea of costs, and
Well,
we'll
Bob
have,
wanted the
we'll have-
information on the sources of the revenue, which, and the breakdown of the expenses, as I understood what he asked for. Am I correct?
okay. I thought we were gonna see that level of detail in a bid that somebody, you know, that some vendor will submit. And at that point, we can then communicate to FinCom, okay, here's the project. It's gonna involve these activities, and this is what it's gonna cost, and we know that the earmark There's
Yeah.
X amount of remaining earmark left, and we'll have to, and then FinCom will then be in a position to discuss, okay, well, how would, if this gets approved by the town, how would we recommend they fund the balance? But if there's something to discuss before then,
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Becky.
It looks like, did the future potential capital request from building committee, was that in my email?
I didn't, when I printed everything out, two
It's
things
not
printed out the same.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's the second thing. If we can review that
Oh.
after we do fire, I'd
Okay,
appreciate
I
it.
have no idea what it is because as I said, it didn't,
It's
when
the
I print,
business- right. So I will forward that. It's
okay,
my
thank
bad.
you. Okay, it's easy to mess up and send the same thing twice. Okay, fire department. Okay, all I got when I downloaded what you sent was the long range capital needs.
Right, and the only other thing, we already reviewed, did we?
Right, we did.
review The repair of the truck
Yeah,
for $328,000? I don't think that's what he's asking for. Okay, there seems to be confusion because this is not a quote for repairing,
no,
and that's what he said he wants to do, right?
I
Yeah.
believe so. Yeah, this is definitely, this is good to have for the future because it's his long range needs, but somehow we didn't get the piece we need.
Okay, I'll have to go back to Lenny because I don't see that this is a new quote. I thought he sent me a new quote on the pump.
on the pump, right? So the
Right.
can you remind me, Becky? I think so. The pump is going to be an FY25 cap, or the repair of the pump is going to be an FY25 capital request, and then that business of adding a water tank to the school sounded like an FY26 project. Is that your understanding?
Yes,
Okay, got it. So we think at this point,
It-
even though we're waiting on the details, we think there's going to be one request from the fire department,
Mhm.
and it's just going to be related to.
Right. Yeah, the
repairing that.
comment on the water tank is on the bottom of the long range capital needs from the fire department. And it just says before the parking lot gets paved.
Ah, gotcha.
So depending on when the one thing takes place, then the other thing
Yeah,
has to take place before.
right. Okay.
um,
Are you searching for something, Becky?
I am. If, okay, I think I found it. Yeah,
Can you put it up?
yep. I'm working on it, Ellen, sorry.
I know,
Um,
it's complicated.
so share. Do you see it?
Oh. Regarding future capital requests, these are more potential futures.
Yeah,
So
so
this
this,
is from the
their
building
request
committee, okay.
is for
Wait a minute.
$40,000 for FY20. This is a building committee request.
Okay, wait a minute. Can we? Okay, this is telling us, oh, this is all the little pieces of
So
everything.
what they've
Okay.
done is they have given you examples of the needs that they have come across
Mhm.
and that are, they've been building a list. They are working through every building in town. And once they complete that they will prioritize all the immediate immediate needs. So they prioritize as they go along. But once they get through all of the buildings, everything that's been categorized as urgent will come to the top of the list and then they'll prioritize. But this is giving you a sampling of the kind of problems that they are finding that they need to address.
Wow. No
And-
surprise.
just being, they're not only being halfway through.
Mm,
But there are many issues out there.
no surprise. So the total amount that they requested is what, the 40,000 that they
Yes,
have gotten in the past?
yes.
Okay.
I think AJ has a question, Ellen.
Oh, I'm sorry, AJ. I was busy reading
No
it.
problem. No worries. I'm wondering, Becky, if you think this, if people think this makes sense, I think it would be helpful when they're ready to prioritize this list, as you just said, that they specifically prioritize it by the target fiscal year in which they
Mhm.
envision these projects being commenced, so in other words, and I think that'll help us rather than just seeing a list of projects, prioritized from 1 to 10 or urgent to, I don't know, less urgent, like actually seeing, okay, we, as a building committee, we think
I
these
think I,
is that,
I'm sorry,
is that the
AJ, I think
plan?
you misunderstood. What I was saying is they would only bring forward the prioritized projects. I mean,
Okay.
that's, but they can't do that at this point because they haven't gotten through all the
All the
buildings.
buildings.
Okay. That even so, I
Yes.
think it would be helpful for us to know, even for sort of future planning, once they have a complete list, if it's possible for them to organize that list by
Here.
proposed, project year.
Yeah.
I think that'll help us. And we can even then potentially, add those items to our long range capital plan for the town. So we can, and it's just, I think that'll help us
Yeah,
moving forward, see, okay, we know that this is coming up in FY26. We know we think this is going to be ready to do in FY27. I think that information would be helpful.
great. Yeah, wrote that down. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be. But we do have a lot of problems in our buildings. We already know that, some of which look to be pretty damn urgent. I mean, when you have problems with roofs and everything else, it's
Yeah.
just a little bit scary. I know, I just had a leak in my office not long ago.
Yep,
Yep.
the cupola was leaking.
Again.
I think
Yeah,
it's,
was it the coop? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And it was coming down the wall, my interior wall and the interior wall in the hallway.
yep,
We had to remove one of the historic documents that was in a frame because it was about to hit that, and we didn't want to ruin that. Okay, that's good. This is good to have, though.
Do we have a sense of when they think they'll be ready to submit a complete list? Like when you may have said this and I missed it, but
No,
when
she
they'll have
didn't.
finished their review of
Yeah.
all buildings? Okay.
maybe by the end of the year,
Calendar or fiscal?
fiscal year.
Okay, that isn't going to help us then because we need to be able to give them some money.
What I was describing to you, this should suffice for what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, all you're saying, they won't be able to make additions to the capital plan till they
Right.
do those further.
But do you think they'll be able to tell us, okay, we are going to request 40K, and then of this list that 40K is going to go to projects 1, 4, and 6?
Well,
or whatever,
these may total 40K. I don't know. I haven't added them up. I'm wondering if they total it.
I believe, but what they're trying to do, if they took examples off their list
Yeah,
that may or
Right.
might not end up in the top ones once they.
okay,
So Bob asked for detail on what kind of issues they had to address with their funding. Bob wanted specific details, so here they are.
mhm.
At this point in time, that's what they're looking at.
So I think what that means then, oh, sorry, I see a hand up.
Becky?
I think Bob has
Yeah.
his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to clarify what I was asking for because maybe I didn't make myself clear. I got this document from you just before this meeting. I wasn't really
Seen it.
clear about what it represented, how much funding was in hand, how much funding was going to be requested, what was the cost of engineering. None of those things were clear to me when I read it quickly because I just got it just before the meeting. And so I wanted to have a document that laid out the facts of the request for the improvements in the school, including money in hand, what's been already provided last year, what is going to be needed this year, and what we're doing. Just some detail in terms of what we're doing over there. Because again, the capital planning committee does have to know the cost of things, and it does have to know what it is in order to evaluate and possibly recommend to the finance committee. The cost is an important consideration. We have different requests coming in. We all support this request. We just want to know what we're talking about.
Bob, we're not talking about the school anymore.
I was talking about that was the question I raised to Becky about
Oh,
the
okay.
dams. Okay, so just wanted to be clear about that, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, I'm doing a quick ad. Becky, if you can scan up again, I've got 30,000 here. Can you get us up so that I can add the rest of it in? 30, 35, keep going. 35, 45, keep going. 45, 47.50 right now. It's a little bit above the 40,000.
And like I said, what they're doing is giving
Yeah.
you specific issues. There's plenty more of these are emerging as they go
Sure.
to inspect each building. And so then they'll have to determine which things they need to address.
But at the same time, they are specifically going to request 40,000, and then they'll figure out which ones of their things make up that 40,000. Am I correct?
Yeah, because you can only get so many projects done in a year.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. This is some pretty heavy duty stuff in here, though. Even if we don't know what the rest of it is. But okay, so when they come out with a thing, it's going to say, we want 40,000 and here's what we're going to spend it on. Am I correct?
What do you mean when they come out with the thing? So
When they come out with their detailed list of their priorities,
yeah,
or are these their priorities? That's what I'm
Well, that-
confused of.
no, it's just because these are samples of the
Yeah.
work that need to get done now. And whether
Right.
these are going to be the most prioritized or not could change. But it's just to communicate with the capital plan committee that they are going through each and every building, and they do have, they're coming across a lot of need in each
Mhm.
things, and they're justifying their request for the 40,000.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Okay. Yeah, because if some of these things are pretty heavy in terms of the need.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
number 5, until we get,
Yeah.
we might find that the whole back of the building is rotting out when they do destructive inspection. But you don't want to do that until you're closer to being
yeah,
able to.
well, after all, we remember when the door fell out.
Yep, last year, the back door just came right off its hinges in the middle of winter. That was a
Yes,
bad,
AJ.
At least you
I'm
weren't on an
sorry.
airplane 6 miles up.
that's true. We definitely were going a lot slower.
AJ.
So here's my kind of instinct about this is that I think people will appreciate that we have a kind of a rigorous we have a building committee who's going through a rigorous process of evaluating the condition of all of our sort of precious town buildings. And I think people will appreciate the intention to make the kinds of small, modest repairs that can prevent more expensive, larger problems down the road. Like that intuitively, I mean, we all, I think a lot of us at town meeting are homeowners, and we kind of get that. So that'll be, I think that this is a good process that I totally applaud. Like seeing this list and knowing that there's a comprehensive evaluation being done for each building. That's good. I'm also aware that I think there are certain voices and in kind of in both in committees and in the town in general that I think will feel like it's important that they know if we're allocating $45,000 at town meeting for the building committee, that it is going to be spent on a specific subset of this list. And so I think this is just my recommendation. Again, for the reasons I've already said, I support the work of maintaining these buildings properly. I think that's really important. But I think it may be to everybody's benefit for the building committee to be at a point when it comes time to preparing town meeting warrants and all of that to specify that this $40,000 allocation for FY25 is going to focus on projects, these specific projects in FY25. I think that's an important detail rather than just say, here's a list of things the building committee intends to address in the coming years. And for this year, they are requesting $40,000 to begin work on some subset of this list, but not specified, if that makes sense. That would be my suggestion.
I think AJ, I hear what you're saying, but I think if they commit to that, they're going to shortchange the town and all the people that are working and operating in the buildings, because we are regularly hit by changes in priorities due to events like a door blowing off town hall or the freak leak we had at the elementary school due to an ice day. There's constantly
emergencies.
So, yeah, and I get there, but as they've gotten through all the buildings, if they come across a major issue in a building that they haven't seen yet, it could trump everything on this list. And I think as homeowners, the public would probably understand that. They have been understanding in the past.
Maybe there's some better way to frame this than what I'm suggesting, but if it could even be some kind of language like,
I guess it's the difference in
barring some unforeseen emergency projects, this projects 2, 4, and 6 on this list would be the building committee's first priorities, or something to that effect that can give them some flexibility to utilize these funds for other kinds of emergencies, which yes, I totally understand can come up, these unanticipated issues that need to be solved, addressed right away. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I sense that some folks might, even if it's been the practice in the past, some folks might have some level of discomfort about a kind of more ambiguous allocation that says we want to give.
Well,
You know,
the
this-
name of the account that is being funded is the renovations account.
Mhm.
And it's not listing a specific project as
Right.
other things. The school roof project has its own
Yeah.
account.
Mhm.
I think this
I
is a
understand, yeah.
general account by definition, but I
Mhm.
know Bob's had his hand up for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was kind of waiting till, okay, Bob.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't know if he had comments on what AJ was.
I just wanted to join in this conversation. I think that I do take the point that both AJ and Becky made. I think that it's a matter of scale. Of course, the building committee has to deal with emergency repairs such as the door blowing off or a leak or something like that, and need to have resources to do that. We've always had a budget for that kind of thing on the building committee when I was a member there.
Mhm.
But bigger projects would go through the capital kind of process the way that the school repairs are going through now as a specific thing where we have a specific kind of description of
Earmark for it,
work
yeah.
and some kind of bidding, some kind of a estimate we can work on as a basis for understanding what we're getting into. And I think that so we can provide both the flexibility that Becky's talking about and the information that AJ is asking for. I think the committee, when I was a member of the committee and the chair of the committee, we did start this process of going through all the buildings in town and trying to draw up a report of what had to happen. So something that's really urgent, like the school is very urgent, would be put to the top of the list. And then because of its size, I'm not saying I know the number that should be involved, but I think that capital planning mandate says something like $5,000 is something that should go through this process. I don't know if that's the right number here or not, but there's got to be, I think, an understanding that anything of scale should have to have some detail or some informational aspect and not just be independently by the committee decided. You follow me? Does that make sense? Does that address your concerns, AJ?
Yeah, so you're suggesting that there be some like specific criteria that, and maybe it's a cost criteria, that if it's a project that's estimated to cost over a certain amount of money, that it ought to go through a project specific capital planning process rather than this general.
Even if it was part of
renovation.
a kind of a lump sum that went through various projects, we need information about what we're funding. It could be an omnibus fund. I don't know. I'm just opening up the possibility that it could be, say, an omnibus fund that Becky describes like 40,000 for a couple of projects, but those projects would have had to been described. I think this document's a great start. But and Becky said they're still working on it. So obviously,
No, I didn't. I said okay, I thought you meant this document. They're not still working on this document. They're working on the master plan.
right,
And
exactly.
and the rest of the buildings.
But what we were talking about, what AJ is bringing up, is that if we're going to provide 40,000, I think is the request. Is that true?
Yeah.
Then we need to know what's for, more or less,
And this does not fulfill that requirement.
No, this is the overall thing, right?
No,
This is the
No.
master plan, right?
no,
No, the
This is
master
for this year?
plan, the master plan goes through every element of every building. It's a huge spreadsheet that is about, there's over 100 lines for each building. It
Wow.
goes to each element, like the number of toilets, the windows, what kind of windows they are, everything. This is only a taste. This is to justify the fact they're asking for $40,000. And this is more detail than has ever been given for a renovations account request that has ever been done. And now I'm being told this isn't enough, or that they have to commit to whichever projects will be at the top 6 months from now, which they can't know. So I'm finding this a bit extraordinary to have this response, because this should have been sufficient for their request for 40,000. They are
Okay,
showing.
see now, again,
example
Becky, I'm sorry, I
what-
apologize, but I didn't understand because I think this way I heard these things described is rather confusing. I thought this was the long-term thing that was being worked on that wasn't
Oh.
complete. So
Look
now
at the
you're telling me
time.
this is the description of the work that is pretty much on the table now.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, these are
Look at
samples
the
of all
title.
the things that they are looking at currently, but
Yeah.
they are, they're busy working on the school project and continuing to flesh out all the potential projects that, similar to what are listed in here, but they still have to get through more of the buildings to have and then they'll have their full priority potentially. And AJ, the issue is that things change during the year. And so for
Understood,
them
yeah.
to, commit to specific small projects is, they need to do that ongoing as a discretionary basis. And that's how the fund has worked in the past, hasn't it, Bob?
Yes, it has.
You're
Yeah.
right, it has. And I remember very distinctly our meetings on a given year, we might have some specific projects that we thought were going to have to be addressed. And we asked for 25,000 that year. That was the biggest number I can recall.
Yeah.
No,
Of course, things have gone up, but we did
Yeah.
also go through the capital process for a lot of projects like painting projects,
yeah.
and repair
Oh, yeah.
projects. So they're both methods of both sort of processes can obtain. I'm just saying it is useful to have information provided by you or from the committee through you about what we're talking about. 40,000 is a bigger request than we've ever seen. I know things are more expensive, but it's still a substantial request. And, there's been times when the request might be lower because, the particular year, because of budget considerations or whatever. We used to actually get it out of the budget sometimes, didn't we?
Yeah.
25. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you did.
changed a
Yeah,
little
we
bit.
funded it through the budget.
Through the budget.
Obviously, if we're going to, this committee is going to vote or recommend 40,000, we just do need some detail about what we're talking about. And this is the document now. That's what you're telling me. I'll review it, but I hadn't seen it till it just came up on the screen.
And incidentally, look at the title of it. It specifically says this is for FY25.
Yeah, I see that now that you pointed out. Thank you, but I didn't see it. I didn't get a chance to review this before the meeting. That's
I didn't even see it.
concerning.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also, I think to be fair, these projects that are on this list also total more than
Yeah, that's
$40,000.
4750
So
or something.
right.
Well,
yeah,
that's
so there is
because
some,
it's a sampling. It's a
I understand,
sampling
right.
of open issues they currently have. But there's
Yeah.
more.
right.
I'm sure.
So
Okay, now,
sorry, could I just have one sort of follow-up
Go ahead,
issue?
AJ.
And this might be a discussion that's more appropriate for me to address with the finance committee, but I do, this whole conversation is making me think that it would be helpful to have kind of clear criteria for what kinds of renovation projects go through a project-specific capital plan process versus, this.
See, but AJ, that's the
build-
point.
yeah.
That's the point. Projects not big enough to be talked about individually should be
Right.
here. And they shouldn't be
Okay.
big enough to take out individually, and there shouldn't be, a requirement for each and every.
Understood, but so I guess I don't know what that criteria is. You've got a $10,000 project on this list. I think there was one that somewhere below said potentially $25,000. So I guess that's what I'm suggesting is it would be good to know that if we are talking about a renovation project that is above, just to throw out a number, $5,000, it'll go through a capital planning process that is focused on that one project. If it's under that amount, it can be funded through this building renovations fund that the building committee, like just having some clarity and maybe
That number
yeah.
is too low. That number
much
is
too low. much too low. Otherwise, every single
Well-
project.
I'm not, I wasn't, I didn't
You
mean to
just chose a
say that
number.
it should be that, and I was picking an arbitrary number, but I guess the point is still like, it would be good to know what that threshold is, if it's based on cost, that if we're talking about a renovation that's above a certain cost, then it goes through our kind of more conventional capital plan process as opposed to this one. I don't know if it's, I don't know what that number ought to be, but I think that would help kind of clarify what goes through this and what goes through our more typical process.
Just very
It's
briefly, if
usually
I might, the document that's our founding document, whatever, our constitution does say 5,000. But you know, that number probably should be revised, as Becky has pointed out, because $5,000 doesn't buy you much these days. But that is what the document says. That's what the
Capital item.
charge of the capital planning committee
Yeah.
says.
But
So
that's a definition of a capital item, not the definition of what has to go through a total, what do I want to call it? Request for bid and all the other thing. That's the state that says that.
And that's
Right.
25,000 now.
well, that's
25,
we're
did you
talking
say?
about this committee,
Yeah.
what this committee should know about. So I think this is something we have to talk about some more, you know, maybe independently of this meeting. We'll talk about it in the finance committee too, I think, AJ. And it's an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Sorry,
are we
I've
just
taken a lot of
about-
time on this. So
That's
it's
okay. Are
helpful.
we just about done with
Mhm.
this? Because I think Steve was there. At least
He's
I
still
saw him
here.
there.
He's
Okay,
still here.
because I'm not seeing him.
I
Thank
see
you,
it.
Can
Bob.
we-
Thank you, AJ, for all your
Thank
feedback.
you very much, gentlemen. Okay, we had a request from the highway department with more detail. Can you get it up on your screen, Becky? Because it deals with his cube
Mhm.
as well as information on the generator, or lack of information on the generator.
Sorry, I didn't have it in the capital plan. It was the email today.
Yes, it was an email today. Yeah, there it is.
Do you see it, everybody?
Mhm.
Is that the right one, Steve?
Yeah, that's the right one. At least that's the one I printed out this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's a little typo on the third line, the Kelcon container.
yeah.
The total should be
Oh, yeah.
4,050, not 44,050, right?
Well, I figured that was an error. I thought maybe it was
Yeah.
gonna be 4405. Okay,
Oh, I'm trying to change it on the screen. It won't work.
that won't work.
Yeah, I'm sure it was obvious to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was obvious to everybody but me.
okay, Steve. And we've got to figure out that that's, as he points out, it's going to go up. Because you said only Box Hub continued to communicate with you once they paid attention to the delivery date being either May or June of 24,
Yeah,
May or
that,
July of
that,
24.
that was pretty funny. Two of the guys, they suddenly bailed on me, but I did get the numbers out of them.
That's interesting. Now, why would we have a delivery in May, considering we're not going to have the funding until July?
Free cash, you can.
Yeah, I didn't
buy-
know
Oh,
if it,
okay.
yeah, I didn't know if it was
Okay.
gonna be free cash or it was gonna come out of something different.
Oh, okay. That explains it. Okay. And they're all pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
And the Kelcon problem is they don't have doors. Roll-up doors.
Steve?
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I just want to ask a couple questions, Steve. this building, this can is gonna be 40 foot by 7 foot by 8 foot or something, or 10 foot. What's it for? What's going inside there?
I'm hoping that we'll put all of our signs and our barricades and our cones and the pressure washers that we don't use during the winter time, we can put in there and then pull those out for the summer and put the propane heater and that kind of stuff in there. We really don't have any wall storage space. We could even put the weed whackers in there for the winter. We don't have room for anything.
Right. So that the Quonset tent or whatever it's called is some of that stuff's going in there?
No, most of that, what's in there right now is the ferry mower and the straw wattles and the hot box and the Toro Z-Trim mower. And now there's a 10-wheeler in there too.
Yeah. So this building will be sitting on crushed stone and there'll be no concrete.
I'm not sure if I'll put it on some kind of block, but yeah, there'll be crushed stone underneath it for drainage. And
Right.
it will,
Good, sorry.
and it will be sitting on the ground or just above the ground.
Right.
It won't have a set of stairs.
Will it be like, were you gonna need wiring? Are you gonna need lights and stuff in there or what?
I'm hoping that we don't.
Seems like you'd really want it to go into that can. It's gonna be dark. There's no windows in there, just the door. I would imagine you
Yeah,
have to put wiring over
For
the
another,
rafters.
I think it was $459, you can buy the windows that fit the containers.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you understood if you were gonna need wiring, what we included in the estimate here, so.
No, if we needed to wire that, I would make that work somewhere else.
Any other questions? They're all
I was
pretty
just-
close to each. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna
I
say
did.
real quickly that there's lots of alternatives probably for lighting than having to officially wire with an electrician. That would cost so much, where you could probably just get tap lights or whatever, some type of option that's battery operated as well.
The other thing, Steve, we're gonna have to figure out the cost of putting a roof over it. That's what part of your plan, right? I mean. Or is
Yeah,
that
I
gonna be
thought
late?
we'd start here, and now we've been collecting telephone poles from Verizon, and I'm hoping to have Nate, the portable sawmill next door, at least saw them in half.
Yeah,
Because some of them are, they're all between 20 and 25 feet tall.
yeah. Those are nice.
With the idea of what? Using them as supports for some kind of roof?
That's correct. Yeah, Bob took a look at it and he had a great idea about using some of them for, instead of tying it into the existing building, putting the posts up beside the existing building and then building the roof off of that instead of tying it in. And I thought that was excellent.
Thank you, Bob. And it'd be a nice use of a recycling of the telephone poles. That's excellent too. Very good.
So that's
Any
down the
other-
road, right?
The rest of that's down, yes. And so is parking a new tractor under there is down the road too.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I had a quick
Thank you.
one.
Oh, AJ.
On the generator, I was wondering if this was comparable to what didn't the fire department purchase a generator last year? Is this a similarly sort of a similar capacity generator, or because I was thinking maybe we could use that cost as at least the rough guideline for now.
The
Well,
cost line up pretty close.
you know,
The costs
AJ,
are
that one,
coming. I
that
just
one was
have
just
to-
a replacement of the generator unit, no tank, no wiring. All that was already done.
Under 20, I think it was
Let's
19
see.
or 19,000.
18 and 19, right?
Yeah. I have to jump in. I'm sorry, Ellen and everybody, but the assessors are waiting for me
Oh,
to
dear.
meeting.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they,
No problem.
if we can wrap up,
Okay.
I'd appreciate it. I'm sorry.
So
Yeah,
the only
okay.
thing I was gonna say is that the quotes are coming very soon. I just happen to have two family businesses who both decided they were gonna take nice long vacations during the Christmas, New Year's, and into early January, so they are coming.
Thank you.
These are quotes for the generator.
Yeah.
These are, yeah, they're both,
Yeah.
they're the exact same quote there for a turnkey where they would find
Got it.
they would use their propane people and all of that, yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Do we want to try to set up another meeting or is it not? We have too many things hanging that we need more information on.
Do.
What's everybody say?
I think we need a meeting for sure.
Well, I know we
Yeah.
need one, but do we need to set it up now? Or should we wait till we're sure we have the information we need?
Did we wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks, do you think, Steve? When will you have information?
I would say 2 weeks.
So that'd be the first week in February.
What about the rest? What about the Lenny? Is he gonna have stuff for us?
Yeah,
that's the
key.
I think the pump he should have, I think it's buried in the quotes he sent us, but I need his help to find it.
So we think you have that in hand already?
Yeah, he sent, can you see me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can pull that out of this quote. And if not, we need a quote.
Right.
So what do you say, Ellen? What date?
I'm just asking all of you, the first full
And-
week in February. Or, I'm sorry,
Which day can you make in that first week of February?
the first full week of February?
Yeah.
Probably most of them. I mean, I don't have my date book in front of me, but there's,
We
If
have
you
a
wanna run
FinCom
down
meeting
and
on
get it.
Tuesday, so we're out for that.
you've got Tuesdays. What,
I will
Becky,
be-
you're better off telling me what's free.
Monday.
What date is that?
I'm looking.
5th.
Yeah.
5th or the 7th.
Yeah.
Want to try for the 5th?
I'd rather,
I
I'd rather the 7th because one of my friends is taking me out for my birthday on the 5th.
Oh, it's your birthday.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Birthday.
yeah, I could not
Seventh
make
works
a,
for me.
AJ? Well, AJ started to
Sorry,
say
I-
something.
I was saying the 7th works for me if
Yeah.
that sounded like it was preferred. Yeah.
Mhm.
Michael Broad, does it work for you, the 7th?
I'm out of, I'm out of the time zone, shall we say. I'm away, but I could probably make a meeting on the
Great.
7th.
Good.
7th?
Okay. Yep.
Jen?
Okay.
7th will work.
Wonderful. That's amazing.
Right.
Okay, better, got everything. Thank you, guys, and I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Very quickly, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Nate.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Let's just get it over with because she's got to go.
Broad
Okay.
eye.
Taylor, I.
Okay. We'll see you all.
Dash UI.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
see you
you.
all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.